السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. الحمد لله رب العالمين، والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين. أما بعد، فأعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. ولقد كرمنا بني آدم وحملناهم في البر والبحر ورزقناهم من الطيبات وفضلناهم على كثير ممن خلقنا تفضيلا. صدق الله العظيم وصدق رسوله النبي الكريم، ونحن على ذلك من الشاهدين والشاكرين، والحمد لله رب العالمين. سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي رب زدني علما. My respected elders and brothers, today's Jummah is one of the few Jummahs in the year that we have the maximum brothers participating, especially the youngsters. If the 25th of December and the 31st or the 1st of January falls on a Friday, it usually happens once in 6-7 years. So because of this reason, since Alhamdulillah we see the youngsters and more youngsters would be coming, today's topic is something that is related to us as elders also, and also to the youngsters. And that topic is the basis of an Islamic civilization. What are the fundamentals and foundations of an Islamic civilization, Islamic culture, Islamic tahzeeb? Let us first review the current situation me and you are passing through right now. Unconcerned of which country we live in, Muslim, non-Muslim countries, any corner of the world, the situation is almost the same. As they say, we live in a global village. What is the current situation when a boy or girl is growing up? They are bombarded by these slogans. This is the conversation in the schools, in the high schools and in the colleges. This is the conversation on social media platforms, and even when youngsters sit together. What is that conversation? At the age of 12, this is your right. You should ask for it. At the age of 15 or 16, you can apply for a learner's permit. At the age of 17 in New York State, you can get a license. At the age of 18, in most of the states, 47 states of the US, you are considered a major. You are considered an adult. You are no more a minor. Now your parents cannot force you to do anything. You are not the property of the state anymore. You are an independent. You can leave your house. You can step out of your house. You can have your own living. So this is the common conversation we hear, our children hear, we talk about, our children talk about. Maybe not us, but they do talk about this. At the age of 21, now these are your rights. Why don't you ask for your rights? This is your prerogative. If somebody doesn't give you your rights, you have to stand up for it. My children say this, your children say this. And sometimes we become really rude. It breaks our heart when we hear these things from our children. But this is the normal situation, unconcerned in whichever part of the world we live in. Why is this conversation going on? Because this is how we are being brought up. This is how the culture is. This is how the current civilization is. That we are told to ask for our rights, but rarely and seldom are we reminded that we have to fulfill the rights of others. So rarely we are reminded that we have to fulfill the rights of others. And when today's children are such, if we don't give them their rights, they can say at our face, these are the repercussions. If you don't do this, oh my father, oh my mother, then this will happen. This is how the world is. This is how you think you should be. Now let's put this current situation for a minute on one side. It's a saying in Arabic, تُعْرَفُ الْأَشْيَاءُ بِأَزْدَادِهَا. चीज़ें अपने ज़िद के ज़रिए से पहचानी जाती हैं. जब किसी चीज़ को समझना हो तो उसकी ज़िद को समझो, असल चीज़ खुद ब खुद समझ में आ जाएगी. Things are generally understood by their opposites. This is a famous saying in Arabic. Things are generally understood by their opposites. So I first mentioned the opposite. Now let's talk about the topic, the basis of an Islamic civilization. What are the bases of Islamic civilization? Islam says when you are a minor, you deserve the kindness of your parents. You deserve the upbringing of your parents. You deserve the pampering of your parents. But once you become an adult, once you become a major, now if your father is sustaining you, he is not fulfilling his responsibility, rather he is doing kindness upon you. You should stand up and sustain yourself. These are heavy words. Once you become an adult, it's no more your father's responsibility to sustain you. He is doing ihsan and kindness on you, that he is sustaining you. You should stand up and work for yourself to sustain yourself. This is what Islam teaches us. Islam says when you buy a house, you have to fulfill the rights of your neighbor. What are the rights of the neighbor? The famous hadith we hear. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "Ma zala Jibreel yusini bil jar hatta dhanantu annahu sayuwarrisu." Jibreel alayhi salam used to remind me, emphasize upon the rights of the neighbors to such an extent that I developed this feeling that maybe the neighbor would become an heir also. The neighbor would get the share in the inheritance also. So much emphasis were there on the rights of the neighbors. Islam says you cannot raise your dividing wall between your house and the house of your neighbor without his permission, because that might block his heir. If you want to sell your house, give him the first option of buying it because he is your neighbor. So Islam says when you buy a house, you have to fulfill the rights of the neighbor. Islam says when you buy the car, look out for the people who are walking and you can give them a ride. So with the heavy bags of groceries in the hand, since now Allah made you, brought you on a higher level that before until yesterday you were walking, now you are in the car. This is the mentality of Islam. Islam says before asking for other people's right, fulfill the rights that other people have upon you. You are an adult, now fulfill the rights of your parents, rather than asking them that what you fulfill my rights, otherwise these will be the repercussions. So once again, the purpose, I'm saying this for the third time, the purpose is not to criticize any nation. The purpose is just for me and you to understand that what does Islamic civilization, Islamic tahzeeb, Islamic culture teaches us, and what's the difference. Islam tells us to fulfill your rights, the rights of the others first. Automatically your rights will be fulfilled. And the other ways and the other cultures tell us to stand up for our rights first. And this is the reason why there is so much destruction in the world today. Islam says you have to fulfill the rights of the road also. You have to fulfill the right of the sidewalks also. Can you imagine? This is the hadith of Bukhari. 1400 years ago, when there were not even paved walkways in the world, where there weren't even footpaths in the world. Back home the word footpath is used. Here it's known as sidewalks. Islam gave us the way of the roads and the highways and the footpaths and the sidewalks also. The hadith of Bukhari, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam says, "Iyyakum wal julus fit turaqat." Sahaba radiallahu anhum used to sit on the intersections of the street, on the corners of the street, to have a good time, to chat, to hang out. Because the houses were not so big in those times, they couldn't afford. Today, alhamdulillah, if somebody owns a house and there's a dawah, there's an invitation, the kids go in the basement, the ladies occupy a certain couple of rooms in the house, the men sit in the living room. Sahaba didn't afford such huge houses. They didn't have even one room in the house to hang out with their friends. They used to sit on the corner of the streets. So Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, beware, don't sit on the corner of the streets. Sahaba radiallahu anhum said, "Oh Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, we need a place to sit down and have quality time. What should we do?" Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam replied, "If you really have to sit down, then you should fulfill the right of the footpath. You should fulfill the right of the sidewalks. You should fulfill the rights of the avenues and the roads." They said, "Oh Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, what are the rights of the road and the sidewalk?" Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam gave 5 rights. Can you imagine? How many amongst us have heard it before? I don't need the answers from you, answer yourself. How many of us have really heard this thing before? He gave five rights. The first right, Ghazzul Basar. There might be sisters and mothers walking on the street. You are not supposed to look at them. You're not supposed to stare at them. Lower your gaze. The first right. Waraddu salam. Somebody says salam to you, reply to your salam. Don't be so much engrossed in your quality time and chit chat that you don't reply to the salam of the passerbys. Kafful adha. If there is something harmful on the way, remove it for the people. Do not block the way in such a manner that people cannot pass and they would need to tell you, excuse me, so they can pass, and you narrow the way for them. Don't do this. وَالْأَمْرُ بِالْمَعْرُوفِ وَالنَّهْيُ عَنِ الْمُنْكَرِ. If the time is good, tell them to do good, meaning remind them to do good. Invite them towards goodness and stop them from doing evil if any evil or bad thing is going on. So these are the 5 rights of sitting on the corner of the street. So this is the mentality of Islam. This is the basis of an Islamic civilization. We are taught from a young age to fulfill the rights of others. One hadith and I'll wrap up inshallah. Imam Qurtubi in the ayah of Surah Bani Israel, where Allah says after my worship you should fulfill the rights of your parents. Imam Qurtubi rahimahullah, a great mufassir, commentator of the Quran from Islamic Spain, Al-Andalus, he mentions the hadith that once a young boy, in today's terminology a high schooler, 15-16 years of age, used to go to school in the day, used to work in the evening. Typical example of the youngsters of today, which is good that you are bearing your own expenses, you are helping your parents also, and you are studying also. Alhamdulillah, this is how it should be, ideally speaking. So he came to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and he complained about his father. He said, my father takes away my check. I earn the hard money, tired after school, but he says give me some money, and every week, every bi-weekly he asks me. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, go and call your father. He went to the father and he said, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is calling you, and this is the reason. The father was really depressed. Eventually he started walking with the son, and he was uttering something that the boy could not hear. In the meantime, when Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was waiting, Jibreel alayhi salam came down, and he said, when this father comes, ask him what he's saying in his heart. Unse pucho ke dil mein kya keh rahe the aap aate hue. When the father came to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, your son complained so and so. The father said to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the money I take from him, I'm a poor man. I spend it on myself, and I spend it on his aunts, the maternal aunt and the paternal aunt. Ask him, do I waste his money? Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam understood. Ishare se jawab diya, and he nodded his head. I understood. I don't need any more evidences or dalil. That's it. And then he said, what were you uttering when you were coming to me? The Sahabi said, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, hum jo bhi sochte hain, Allah Pak aapko bata dete hain. Whatever comes in our mind, whatever we think, Allah opens up for you. Indeed, this is a sign that you are a true prophet. So he said, while I was coming, I was depressed. And I transferred my emotion, I went down memory lane. And whatever treatment I had given to my child, I composed it in a poem. And then he started reading that poem. It's a long one. I'll just give you a summary of the translation in English. It's an Arabic poem. Sure, they used to speak Arabic. So this is how he started. So he said, O son, when you were young, you lived on my money, on my earnings. When you used to be sick, I spent the whole night remaining awake and restless because of your sickness. When an outsider would come in this state, he would think as if I am sick and not you, because of the restless eyes and the restlessness he would see me tossing on the bed. And I used to shed tears throughout the night. I was always afraid that whenever you left home, I was always afraid that something would happen to you. Though I knew that the time of death is fixed, being neither early nor late. Whenever the kids leave home, even kids of my age, our parents tend to tell us, khayal se gaadi chalana, be careful, don't speed. So we tend to get frustrated. I'm a grown up, I have my own children. What's wrong with you, father? What's wrong with you, mother? That's it. So this is what he's saying. He said, whenever you are away, I used to tell you, do this, this, this. Though I knew whatever Allah has destined for you will happen. मौत नसीब में होगी तो होगी, फिर भी मैं अपनी चाहत और मजबूरी और ममता जिसको कहते हैं उसकी वजह से फिर भी मैं आपको समझाता था. When you became mature, and this was the day I was looking forward to, how did you return my softness and my upbringing? You returned it with hard-heartedness and harshness, as if you are doing me favors and I'm not doing favors to you. So the father is saying to the son, if you are not able to fulfill my right as a father, you could have at least given me what a good neighbor gives to another neighbor. When this poetry came to an end, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam became emotional. Tears rolled down his cheeks. The father looked at Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and he looked at the father. He took hold of the boy by his shirt like this, and he said, Anta wa maluka li abhika. You and your property belongs to your father. तुम और जो कुछ तुम्हारे पास है तुम्हारा बाप उसका मालिक है. So whatever we are today, whatever earnings we have, our parents have full right upon it. So this is the mentality of Islam. So those of us whose parents are still alive, alhamdulillah, we should cherish this ni'mat of Allah. This favor of Allah. The topic is not the rights of the parents. The topic is, the reason I brought it as an example is, this is basically the field where me and those of us who have parents, we tend to have a big shortcoming. So the thing is, fulfill the rights of others, automatically Allah will get your rights fulfilled. One more hadith, time is up. The youngsters are here, this is especially for the youngsters. And those elders also whose parents are still alive. Today, if we are saying something here, within a difference of a second, or maybe not even a difference of a second, people in any part of the world can hear us, can see us, can witness us. It's live. In the time of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, they didn't have satellites. They didn't have mobile phones. They didn't have 5G internet. Once Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam went in Jannah, Allah took him on a tour of Jannah, maybe in Mi'raj, or maybe in the dream. So he heard a person reciting the Quran in Jannah. There will be no recitation of the Quran in Jannah, no salah, nothing, just having fun, chit-chat, enjoyment, enjoying life, eating, drinking, hanging out. So he asked the angels, who was this reciting the Quran in Jannah? The angels told him, this is your companion Sahabi Nu'man ibn Bashir radiyallahu anhu. He wasn't in Jannah, he was still alive in Makkah Mukarramah. And when he used to recite the Quran at night in his house, the angels could hear him in Jannah. Rasulullah ﷺ asked, what is the reason? He said he is good with his mother. अपनी वालदा के साथ वो बहुत अच्छा सलूक करते हैं. So my respected elders and brothers, as believers, as Muslims, we are the da'is, we are the ambassadors of Islam in this part of the world. And if I am not able to implement deen in my life, and if I am not able to function on the street, in the malls, at our schools and colleges, at our workplace, in our community, we are not able to function as practicing Muslims, it's not us answering to Allah on the day of judgment. We might become reasons for many people becoming against Islam. We might become a reason of many people being pushed away from Islam. So it's not one thing, it's a dual thing. We are taking the responsibility of so many of my neighbors who are non-Muslim, and they are carefully, minutely, under the microscope, they hear a news last night that Muslims are doing so and so around the world. They say, oh, let's see whether a Muslim lives in our neighborhood, let's see how he functions. How many times did I smile at them? How many times did I exchange gifts with them? How many times through my actions did I say that I am a Muslim? Action speaks louder than words. We don't need to speak so much, we need to act. And as believers, we need to learn these fundamentals, that what are the bases of an Islamic civilization, and automatically we will realize that how much we are missing. Whatever was said and heard, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us the understanding of these things. Ameen. Before the sunnah, brothers are requested inshallah to stand up. Those even of you who have even prayed your sunnah, if you can just stand up, fill in the gaps in front of you, and then inshallah start your sunnah. We have a lot of space in between, so quickly inshallah if you